There are 3 Up games, one for the PlayStation 2, Wii, and DS. All of these games are kind of similar, but they still have their noticeable differences. The Wii Up game starts you off in a biplane as Doug the Dog with fast maneuvering. The control sensitivity is high, supplying a slippery feel when trying to control. You have to be up close to an enemy in order to shoot them. Well, at least that level was relatively short, and in the next level you're not flying anymore, and are instead traversing jungles, rocky cliffs, slightly differently colored rocky cliffs, and a blimp. Throughout these levels, Carl and Russell use their separate abilities to get to the end of a level. These include moving rocks, shimmying, using the walking stick, using some formation of a seesaw, swinging, cutting a rope, using Kevin, levitating, and flame flooding. This game has a noticeable repetitive nature in a way that makes up the whole game. There's about 4 puzzles in it, but other than that, it's just ledges, edges, and easy boss fights. The graphics give off the right mood for the game and can sometimes be really atmospheric and eerie. Look at the fog here. Look at the dusky surroundings of this observingly treacherous place. Look at this damp, glistening concave cave. Look at the mechanical structures in front of thick grey smoke. Look at the light shine on these mountains as a vast, never-ending array of foggy jungle terrain is shown far below. The atmosphere and general presentation in this game is visually delectable, and it stands out more than the tedious tasks of going up ledges and edges. The final fight against Charles Muntz might be visually interesting as well. Let's see. Oh, more slippery biplane controlling at the very end of the game, except this time the sequel to the level that brings up the most abhorrence in the whole game is longer. In conclusion, this game has really good presentation, but the gameplay is vapid and hardly ever changes. The biplane levels are the worst thing about this game, despite them adding something different, but overall, the first biplane level was short, and the second one is longer, but still tolerable. Up for the Wii gets a D+. This game is harmless, and the only harm it brings is the biplane levels, which are relatively brief to begin with. This game could have been better if there was more added to it other than ledges and edges. I guess the atmosphere kind of represents this game. The endless fog is like this game. Empty. Well, maybe Up on the DS will be better. When you first start this game, the introduction sets the standards for the music. With the fact being that the music is actually quite good. The game plays a lot like the Wii Up, meaning that you are still accomplishing tedious tasks throughout the game, involving going up ledges and edges. I guess there's more variety, because Carl and Russell both have special abilities that don't include going up ledges and edges like Russell's bugle or Carl's balloon. There were different abilities like this in the Wii version, but they consisted of 2 separate stuns for each character, 2 taunts for each character, a bugle, a balloon, heal. But that does not make up for the amount of impeccably repetitive ledges and edges climbing and the dog meter. The more you move, jump, or basically play the game in general, this dog meter fills up, and when it fills up completely, you have to stop playing the level and fight dogs. You have to be fairly specific when trying to attack these dogs, or else the dogs will attack you and run away, so you have to constantly move around and find a good place to stand and attack at the same time. This makes the fights easy, but it also makes it tedious to win. When the dog meter fills, it shows a slot machine where you can get a dog to fight or get a collar. If you get 3 collars, you don't have to fight the dogs, so if you want to actually play the game, then you better memorize the slot machine pattern or else it's constant canine clashes. The only variety comes when you're flying a biplane. A biplane, and that's over faster than you can say anti-disestablishmentarianism. The amount of times you have to stop and fight dogs is excruciatingly annoying, and it sucks out any enjoyment I have for this game. And by enjoyment, I mean the infinitesimal amount of fun I have playing Ledges and Edges, the video game. You can prevent the dog meter from going up by walking slowly, but there is no way that I'm going to put up with this speed. It'll be eons before you beat the game playing like this. You can use a purchasable item to freeze the dog meter. For a minute. To be used in levels that take 20 to 30 minutes to be beaten, and from a shop that only lets you get one of each item. The dog meter is a really bad concept. I will definitely never see the same concept ever because that There are bosses in this game, but they're really easy, and after I had discovered this void that probably shouldn't have been there, this cutscene starts to play. Maybe this final boss will be challenging, or at least good in any way possible. I can only hope. The dogs have been thrown at you so many times, and now they're the final boss? The third last boss was more threatening, harder, and generally emits more enjoyment in playing. Even though you can cheat and have Carl shimmy on the wall at the last second before an attack, but still. You know what the funny thing is? You can fight the exact same dogs in an earlier stage because of the dog meter, but that version is harder because they're all coming at you at the same time, unlike this boss, meaning that it is possible to fight the harder version of the final boss on the first level. After that, there's a bonus level, and the reward for torturing myself finishing this is a cheat code and a specimen. Up on the DS gets a DHMIS. There's only two good things about this game, which are the music, which, upon further inspection of listening to it after all of this time going over ledges and edges, I think that the music is just okay. Not pretty good though. And the optional mini-games, but the actual gameplay is just tedious beyond what any game should be. This is the worst video game that I have ever played because it's so devoid of any enjoyment, and it's just so dreadfully bad. Despite how bad this game is, it's not enough to get below the D-scaling. You can learn the timing for the dog meter and completely avoid it if you want to get really good at getting the collars, but the gameplay is still terribly bad, with ledges and edges galore. Up on the PlayStation 2 is not like the other Up games. The in-game cutscenes are good, but the cinematic ones, not so much. When you first start this game, you can feel the characters moving around because of the bumps and rocks scattered about. This brings off a great sense of momentum and sets itself apart from the other Up games. Speaking of the other Up games, they had a lot of ledges and edges, and this game improved on that concept by not having as many to the point of being the only thing that you do in the whole game. This game has chase levels, water levels, transition levels, and a biplane level throughout the game, giving it more variety. The main levels have other obstacles other than just ledges and edges. The other Up games were constantly making you go up, while this game makes you go straight and up at times, giving it more resources to work with other than just ledges and edges, and also a grand way to show progression through the game. The water levels involve Carl and Russell paddling on a log to reach their goal. Sometimes the controls here can be a bit slippery, but it still offers a fair challenge, and whenever you fail, it's not the game's fault. You need to be alert and aware of your surroundings and carefully maneuver your canoe to reach your goal. In the chase levels, you can either play as Russell and stun enemies while atop Kevin, or you can play as Kevin and run away from the enemies. Playing as Russell is easy, but playing as Kevin is a good time. The obstacles are presented in such a rhythmic manner that it's satisfying to win as Kevin. There's only one biplane level, and it's way better than the Wii version. It's much easier to hit enemies because of less slippery and smoother controls. It's also a short level, only lasting a few minutes and serves as the final level in the game. The transition levels are a simple concept. All it is just Carl and Russell walking over cliffs to the next destination, and occasionally flying using a house attached to them. The atmosphere in this game is better than the Wii version. Look at the misty rocks, look at the serene water, look at the faraway lands below you as you traverse through this world. Look at the level select screen. It looks desolated, never ending and kind of depressing, but it feels comfy, and at home. This is the best level select screen that I have ever seen. Up on the PlayStation 2 gets a C++. This game knows how to pull off a sense of progression and generally knows how to be a decent game. There's a certain charm to this game that makes it feel like an actual adventure. I wonder what it's like to be in the settings of these games, completely lost in an unknown realm existing alongside an unpredictable amalgamation of misty rocks and never-ending swerves and spirals or paths that lead to lands of solitude.